where you guys just beat C9. We're getting kind of stomped at first.
Yeah.
And then turned it around. So can you explain how that happened?
So I think we just messed up a bit early versus Cloud9, and our comp made it really hard for them to like team fight and siege at all. So once they had, pretty much all we had to do was just properly protect like the banner minion, because if they get banned and banner, the game's pretty much over. So what we just communicated at that point is as soon as they had banned and they started grouping as 5, banning down mid, we said, okay, we have to force a fight now. And we actually just Talia walled them off. And then just Darshan had Materializer. And this happened like multiple times where he just walked up and materialized the creep. So I think that pretty much saved us from the game snowballing too hard. And then we were able to just come back later on.
How are you and Biofrost similar in your personalities?
I think me and Vincent are pretty similar people. I think the only difference is like in the morning when I wake up and I'm like talking to everyone, and then Vincent's just kind of like, don't talk to me. And I'm just like, okay. So, but outside of that, I think me and him are very similar, and it's just kind of funny to see like I think Bio's just the kind of person who kind of adapts to like different personalities. So for example, when we're scrimming, he can be like really serious. And then when I'm playing Duoku with him, he like understands my humor really well and like just says like things that I think too that I wasn't thinking of, or I didn't feel like he was that type of person, but I just think it's really funny to play with him, and he's just a really good person overall.
So you said you're similar. You feel like you're similar to Bio. You also used to say that you felt similar to Aphro. So are those two similar to each other?
Yeah, I actually do see a lot of similarities in Aphro and Bio. Like I said, the morning thing when you wake up and they just look like they just hate life, and I'm just like, hey guys. So yeah, I think that's pretty similar about them. And they also, I feel like Bio's working on it, but he does have like a leadership mentality, and we've kind of like forced him to almost do this because we feel like the best kind of person to lead a team is the support, but he does it really well. And so yeah, I guess that's also very similar in their aspects.
Kind of talking about leadership and shot calling. You guys initially were trying to set Huhi as the shot caller, and then realized that's not the best for you guys. You know, why was that? Why was that not the ideal role for him?
So pretty much how our I guess communication roles went this split is we just came together as 5, and then we were pretty much just given roles like, here, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. And Jay was just like the primary shot caller just off the bat without anyone else really getting a chance to do it. And I think a couple people on the team didn't feel like that was correct. But the reason it happened like that was just because of past experience with Aphro. Jay was usually like the backup kind of person to do that, so he was just naturally given that role. And yeah, I guess over the split, we didn't really feel like it was being done super well, and we also weren't like helping Jay to do his job really well. So we ended up switching our communication roles like this week in practice. You know, it's a little bit late, week 6, but we did switch it a bit, and now we just have Vincent Biofrost doing those kind of things for us. And I think he's a very consistent person, so it's really nice to have him doing it because it's just he makes sure it gets done every game.
Nick Allen had also said that you guys are kind of like fine-tuning the training regimen to better practice shot calling. What does it look like in training when you're trying to practice shot calling?
So pretty much when we're practicing shot calling, it's like usually we just take like a segment of our post-game review to just talk about communication, where it's just like, what did you guys think Vincent did good? What do you think Vincent did bad? And it was just like, or what do you think he needs to improve on? So he's just getting direct criticism after every game, like, hey, I think you should be more forceful with this call or something like that, or hey, I didn't feel like this was the right call. And we're going through a lot of like trial and error with that. And I do think we've improved a lot, especially from the first day, where it was like, okay, we're making pretty clear mistakes, and to where it's like, okay, now we're able to get to like the late game and to where it's like the really important times for macro. So yeah, I think with a little more time, we will be really good on that side of things.
What do you think is like the most common mistake or like hurdle someone faces when they try to like train their shot calling, having seen Bio do it and Aphro really become that?
I think the biggest hurdle for a shot caller is to tell people no. And I think that's something Aphro is really good at. So for example, we have to group and do something, but someone else is like, hey, I want to push out my wave real quick. Sometimes the shot caller wants just, okay, we'll do this and then we'll wait for this guy. But sometimes you just have to say, no, you need to come right now. And I think a lot of people struggle with that because they want everyone to do what's best for them. But yeah, I think that's also another aspect that Biofrost has struggled with, but we're helping him learn. So.
You've been on CLG for a while now, so looking back at the last years, what do you think? What quality of yours do you think has grown most on this team?
What qualities have grown most? I definitely think. Yeah, I don't know how to say this any other way, but I think when I first joined the team, I was like a little shit. I don't really know how else to say it, but I think I just matured a lot, and I was able to understand how to talk to people more, like other people, and just work with them in general without just like voicing frustrations to them. And even now, like, not everything's gonna be perfect, but I do think I got a lot better at not just like, you know, saying the first thing that's on my mind, trying to say it in a more nicer way, so it's like they can talk to it, or I can talk to them without it being like emotional. I think that's probably the biggest thing I've worked on. What helped you become less of a little shit? I don't really know, to be honest. I think it was just a mindset change. I think somewhere around like summer 2016 is where I felt like I was willing to listen to people more, and it wasn't just all about like whatever I think is right. It was more like, you know, I don't necessarily agree with you, but I'll do what you say anyways because it might just better the team. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's just natural, just maturing. So.
For more league interviews and analysis, subscribe to our channel. You can also find stats, discussions, and more on our website and mobile app at blitzesports.com.